Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. So this is book 8 of The Wheel of Time. This is high fantasy, it's an epic fantasy, political fantasy. I don't really know what other subgenres it fits into. It's kind of a lot of subgenres, but primarily this is an epic fantasy series. So, The Path of Daggers is book 8 of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. Largely this continues the upwards projection for me, although I will have some more to say on that as I continue going through this review here. Some of the storylines are more boring than others, but as a whole I don't dislike this book, and that's a major important point for this video, as we will get to when we get to the end. Before I continue on with the review, I'd just quickly like to say if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. So once again, we've got several storylines going at once, as has been with basically most of the books since book 1. Book 1 was pretty much one linear story, pretty much, without branching off to different people's point of views. But since then, 2 through 8 has really had several different storylines that are going on, and more as you continue reading through the books. The Bowl of the Wind storyline is by far the driest, possibly pun intended there, and the one that I cared for the least. That being said, it is finally coming to a head in this book, and the effects of that storyline can now be seen and felt, and that's a good thing. I also don't care a ton for Elaine's storyline here. I feel like it could have been handled in a chapter or 2, rather than spending as much time on it and as much time and words on it as we did. That being said, I don't hate it. It's not my least favorite of the storylines in this book, and that's actually a good thing, because Elaine is one of those characters that for a long time I really didn't like her chapters, which means that now she's getting less annoying, and that's also a good thing. Matt is absent from this book, but honestly I never specifically noticed the lack or thought, you know what, I need to see what Matt is up to at this moment. So that's a good thing, that even though he was lacking, which is not a good thing, I didn't feel the lack of him. But it is sad that he's not in it, as I do actually enjoy his storyline. On the flip side, we do get Perrin here. Unfortunately, with Perrin comes Fael, and that being said, I find the stuff surrounding the Prophet very interesting. As much as I dislike Fael as a character and as with the relationship that she has with Perrin, I find the storyline that they're involved in to actually be pretty interesting, and I can't say that it's really the most engaging, but there's a level of politicking here which I find really interesting. And oftentimes, even if a book is not the most engaging, the most fun to read, I can enjoy it if there's some other things going on, some politics that are going on that aren't super engaging. I can find that interesting still, and so that's kind of what happened with Perrin's storyline in this one. Egwene is Egwene, less annoying than in previous books still, which is also good, and I like that she's finally taking hold of her position and using it in the way that it's supposed to be used. She's not quite so tied down by those around her like she has been in the past 2 or 3 books. I don't remember when this part of her storyline started. But anyways, that's another really good thing, is that she's finally becoming the character who she is now, and that's really good. And then there's Rand's storyline. Once again, this is the part that I'm most interested in. His struggle with his sanity and his power is what I find interesting. Also the effects of the other events in the world and how that is then affecting his side of the things is good to see. But I do have to admit, I was a little bit confused as to what was happening here, and it is by far the most boring his story has ever been to me. I like his story. The story of the Dragon Reborn is the most interesting story in this series, but in this book it is the most boring that it's been so far, and other than in book 3 where he basically wasn't in it. But other than that, I did enjoy his storyline quite a bit as well. So while I didn't hate this book, and at the time of reading I didn't really think of it as a bad book, as I looked back at the story while I was writing this review, I realized that everything was kind of boring for me. It wasn't off-putting like some of the books in the series have been, which is likely why I say I don't mind it. But I can definitely see that it wasn't my favorite. I like the politicking and Rand's personal journey, but I don't like the Shan-Chan, and that's a plotline that has consistently not worked for me. I'm now through book 9 as well, and it's still, I don't care for that plotline. I don't find it interesting. I don't think that there's much going on with it that is beneficial to the series, unfortunately. It feels like just bloated page count. And that's the way I felt about it since book 2. That's largely why book 2 was not my favorite of the books. Why I disliked book 2 as strongly as I did, because I just did not care for this storyline that was going on with the Shanchan. But things are moving ahead, and I view that as a good thing. I view story progression as a good thing, especially since this is one of those stories where the plot is not progressing for the sake of the plot progressing. It is in some degree, but that's because of how this world is set up with a prophecy, with a last battle coming, and all that kind of stuff, the dark one breaking free, all that kind of stuff kind of pushes the plot forward a little bit, but at the same time, so much of how we get to that point is based on the actions and decisions of other characters and of the characters in this series. So, not my favorite of the Wheel of Time books, by far not my least favorite of the Wheel of Time books though, and so that's good. So that is my review of The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We are posting videos every Monday and Tuesday, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.